There we go. I'm panicking because I'm getting older and there's no one left to date. Amy's run into a problem here, guys. She has followed the Sandbergian principle of dating and marriage for women, and she thinks there's no one left to date. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is solipsistic behavior. She's only thinking of herself, as most women do. There are plenty of men to date out there. There are men all around to date, right? But if you're in your 30s and men of value don't want a long-term relationship with you and they only want sex, of course you think that there aren't men to date. They're running out of dating options. You are running out of dating options. The guys that are dateable are not, they haven't gone anywhere. They just don't want you. This is how all girls are. If no guys are available to her, in her mind, well, there's just no one left to date. As if the guys are just no longer around. They just up and disappeared. No. There are plenty of guys around. They're just not interested in her. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the beginning of the article says, I didn't worry too much about meeting the right guy immediately when I was younger. I thought it would happen in time, and I had plenty of it. Now I'm in my 30s and single again, and I realize I should have found a good guy, then snapped him up. This is why I'm freaking out. The thing that stood out to me was when she said, didn't worry too much when I was younger, I had plenty of time. Young pretty girls in this country, they think they have all the time in the world. I did an episode a while back called Why Girls Choose to Stay Single. And one of the reasons is that they think they have time. And they do have time until, of course, they don't have time. Back in the day, guys, a woman who was single for a reason. Maybe she had some sort of disease. Maybe the word got out that she wasn't a virgin, meaning she had the scarlet letter of being someone who was promiscuous, a tart, or a floozy, as they used to call them back in the day. Maybe she was barren. Maybe she couldn't have children. Whatever the case was, a female who was unwed by the time she was in her early 20s, and sometimes even younger, was more or less looked down upon by the community. In 2019, the guys, things are literally the opposite. If a young woman gets engaged, and let's say she's, 20, 22 years old, everyone around her is confused as to why she's getting married at such a young age, right? Her friends ask her things like, well, why are you jumping into this? Or they'll ask her, you're still young. Why don't you just date around? Well, this is why. Amy Horton is letting us know why. Because if you do it long enough, you're going to wake up at 34 years old and wonder why the men who used to throw themselves at you only want sex from you with no commitment. Amy Horton is experiencing this right now because she thought she had all the time in the world, and now, of course, she does not. So let's take a look at the first bullet point she points out. Number 1, my dating pool shrank before I even noticed. She says, I was in a serious relationship for a couple of years, and then I was taking my time to recover from the breakup. When I was finally ready to date again, I looked around and realized that I had a serious problem. Everyone I meet is either married, in a committed relationship, or someone I don't want to date. Yikes. Guys, she's being dishonest. When she says, quote, took time to recover, what this means is that she was having casual sex with a lot of guys in a short period of time. She wants us to think that she was a hermit and just stayed in the house. Oh, I need to recover from a breakup. She wants us to think that she just stayed holed up in her big city apartment, didn't do anything, didn't go anywhere, didn't hang out with friends, was just a hermit, just a hobbit. But guys, she was at the bars. She was at the club. She was going home with random guys just about every day of the week. She did it so long, she lost track of time. Girls say this all the time. They say, well, I haven't been in a relationship in 3 years. Well, what she wants you to think is that she's been sitting at home waiting for the right guy. What she has actually been doing during the time where she has, quote unquote, not had a relationship, she's been sleeping with random guys. And it's easy for women to sleep with random guys here in 2019. It's almost harder not to sleep with random guys than it is easy to sleep with guys, right? Then she says, someone you don't want to date, right? Everyone I meet is either married, in a committed relationship, or someone I don't want to date. No. The guy you rejected in your 20s is still unattractive to you right now. That's the guy she doesn't want to date. The closer you get to 40, the more attractive he will be, Amy. Trust and believe. Like I said, the guys didn't go anywhere. You just got older and less attractive, and that's what's happening. Let's go to her number 2. She says, all the good guys I know are taken now. She says, quote, I used to know a lot. She says, I used to know tons of great dudes. Somewhere along the way, they all got snapped up, and the ones who don't seem to be all that great. I know there have got to be some awesome single guys out there, but the number is definitely smaller than when I was younger. Tons of great dudes, she says. Translation, betas in waiting. You see, she ignored these tons of great dudes in her 20s to get with the bad boys. And again, she messed with the bad boys so long that those guys are now taken. And now she's mad that they didn't wait around for her to stop sleeping around with the bad boys. Yes, there are plenty of awesome single guys out there, but they're with the 23 and 24-year-old versions of Ms. Horton, not the 34-year-old Amy she is now. The number is smaller because of who you are, not because of the dating market. Well, but the number is definitely smaller now than it was younger. Again, this is that solipsistic mentality. The number of men available to her has dwindled, so she must think, well, the number of men has just dwindled, period. No, the number of men have dwindled for you. Let's go to her third bullet point here. Says number 3, let me pull this up here. Says it's not like before. Most people are caught up in serious relationships. She continues. Before, people broke up all the time. Nothing seemed all that permanent. Now, all around me, I see people who want to be settled down already. I'm the opposite. I'm just now finding my individuality and freedom and looking for another free spirit. Go figure. Again, this is solipsism. Everybody was in relationships when she was in her 20s. But you want to know why she wasn't paying attention? Because she was sleeping around. Free spirit, quote unquote, that's another name for a woman who is promiscuous, non-committal, and doesn't have any steadfast beliefs. She's a party girl. Men of value don't want a, quote, free spirit. They don't want a woman who's unpredictable. You had all the free-spirited men available to you when you were in your 20s, but now you realize that those free-spirited men, the bad boys, are not good for long-term relationships, just like Sheryl Sandberg said. You can't have it both ways, sweetheart. And when she says, I'm just now finding my individuality and freedom, when she says just now finding, no, she's just now figuring out that maybe I shouldn't have partied all through my 20 years, all through my 20s, like the world would have us believe is the right thing to do. The next thing she points out, everyone I know is getting married. It says, quote, granted, my friends back at home have been married forever. Some of them are even divorced or remarried. It's not the same out here in the big city. People take a little longer to make it official. Now I'm at the age where even my friends here are getting married and having kids. I feel like the odd man out because I don't want a family. Listen, man, when she says her friends have been married forever, they did it right. They got married young, they're with their husbands, they're not going anywhere, they have families, they're happy. She feels like the odd man out because she doesn't want a family. Listen, I agree with her. Listen, families aren't for everybody. But what she has to understand is that most men of value, they aren't going to get married to a woman who doesn't want a family. It's all cool and chic to say, well, I don't want a family, but at your age, you can't about guys not wanting to date you because you don't want kids or a family. Number 5, let's look at the fifth thing she pointed out. The only viable guys are younger or divorced. She says, quote, okay, that's not entirely true, but it's the majority. The younger dudes haven't committed to anyone yet, but I don't have a lot in common with most of them. Yeah, they're young, you're old. She continues, I don't have an issue dating a divorced guy. At least I know he's able to commit. On the other hand, the older we get, the more baggage we all have. This is a cold dose of reality in her face. The older you get, the more baggage you have. The only difference is baggage weighs down females more than it weighs down men. A man who comes with a lot of baggage is not as unattractive as a female who has a lot of baggage. Let's go back to the top of what she said. She says, well, the only viable guys are younger and divorced. Then she turns around and says, okay, so that's not entirely true. There you go, guys. That small little nugget of truth. No. The viable guys don't want you. When she says, okay, that's not entirely true, but it's the majority. Yeah, listen, the viable guys don't want you anymore. She tried to pawn it off as only the young and divorced guys. No, sweetheart. Only the damaged guys are available. That's how she wants to package it to us. No, sweetie, negative. It's the viable guys that don't want you. The men of value don't want you. Listen, the only viable guys are younger and divorced is 100% BS. That's not the way it works. What you are finding out is that the viable guys that you want do not want you. Let's move to number 6. She says, quote, dating a guy who is divorced and or has kids is a whole different ballgame. She continues, There are definitely different issues that a divorced guy brings to the plate, she says. An ex-wife, for instance, and perhaps alimony or other legal issues. If he has kids, I hate to say it, but that's a deal breaker for me. I don't want kids, and I don't particularly want to take care of someone else's. This narrows my dating pool even more. Listen, to be fair, I can't blame her here. Listen, if you're a woman and you date a man who has an ex-wife and kids, you got to deal with the baby mama drama. The kids are a headache. You're not my mom. But guess what, Amy? You are going to have to compromise at some point if you don't want to be alone. And let's not pretend here. You are afraid of being alone. This is why you wrote this article. A deal breaker now for a woman isn't necessarily going to be a deal breaker in 5 years. So right now at 34 years old, well, I absolutely will not date a guy who has kids. Let's see what she says when she's 39. Number 7. Men my age or older are still single for a reason. She says, yes, I'm single too, and that's also for a reason. I won't settle for just any guy. Oh, that's just so cute. She's single because the reason she's single are not the reasons that men her age are single. The reason men her age are still single is because they're still playing the field. Men her age are just now realizing their value, and they realize that they can be a little bit more selective. Amy is still single because men of value don't want to be with her anymore. Oh, yeah, they'll use her for a roll in the hay. They'll use her for one-night stands, but they don't want anything more than that. But she wants us to believe that, well, the reason I'm single is just because I won't settle for any guy. Yeah, whatever you have to tell yourself, sweetheart. She continues, maybe these guys are just too picky, but unfortunately, all too often there are different reasons for their perpetual bachelorhood. Sometimes they really don't want a committed relationship. Maybe they aren't emotionally available, or maybe they're married to their jobs. See, that's your problem. This is your problem, Amy. You won't settle for just any guy. What's happening here is your taste is too expensive for your budget. You want a $70,000 car, but you have $15,000 to spend. That's how this works. Now, here's the thing. In your 20s, you had that luxury. You had your pick of the $75,000 automobiles, but as time goes on, you don't have that luxury. Then she says, maybe these guys are too picky. Yeah, they're picky because they have options. And men with options rarely commit to females in their mid-30s who have notch count into the triple digits, who are free spirits. Maybe this and maybe that. Well, maybe they aren't emotionally available. Maybe they're married to their jobs. Maybe they don't really want a committed relationship. Or maybe, Ms. Horton, you just need to understand that they don't want you. Women have to tell themselves these things to sleep at night. Okay, so guys don't want me anymore. Maybe they're not seeing who I really am. Maybe this, maybe that. No, they don't want you. And women don't want to have to come to that realization. Otherwise, they're going to have to take Ambien to sleep at night to keep themselves, from staying up all night thinking about being the 45-year-old perpetual cat lady.